Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, Taking Care of Business. The man who rules the world breaks in a brand new partner to help him take care of business in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get John Haynes, Taking Care of Business at paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. "11 people were killed and 29 people were injured in a series of shootings that were all connected to the same suspect."
The man charged in the 5 Points South mass shooting and 2 other deadly shootings in Birmingham now faces even more charges, including the mass shooting in July and another homicide in August. Here's a look at the timeline of these crimes. According to Birmingham police, 22-year-old Damian McDaniel of Bessemer is responsible for over 30% of the city's homicides from July to September. ABC 3340's Valerie Bell is working for you to learn more about these cases. Valerie, it's taken hours of investigating for police to piece all of these together.
It has, Megan, but the work doesn't stop there. Birmingham police say it's possible McDaniel could be connected to other unsolved homicides in Birmingham that hasn't been ruled out. Between July and September, Damian McDaniel is charged in 5 separate shootings. Altogether, he's accused of killing 11 people and injuring 29 others.
I feel like people like that need to be put away.
The deadly streak of crimes he's accused of started July 13th. It was at a venue ABC 3340 later discovered was unlicensed.
It's all right to make $1. But why should you make $1? You killing the neighborhood. This is my neighborhood.
The aftermath, blood on the streets, and anger and sadness in the community.
It's a shame. We got women dead now.
4 people were killed, 10 others were injured at that birthday party event.
Angie, I love you. Monique, my heart goes out to you. This sad.
According to police, McDaniel didn't act alone in this deadly mass shooting. 27-year-old Hatarius Woods was also indicted in this case.
Birmingham is most definitely a safer place with these individuals behind bars.
McDaniel was also indicted for capital murder again and burglary for an incident that happened a month later. Woods is also charged in that case. It involved a stolen vehicle, a man killed in an apartment, officers firing shots at the suspect, and a chase.
Very chaotic scene.
McDaniel is also accused of killing a 35-year-old woman. Police didn't believe she was the intended target when she was shot inside 604 Bar on September 19th.
We are very deeply saddened by what happened.
A few days later, 100 shots rang out on a Saturday night in 5 Points South, a popular nightlife spot.
So probably about 5 or 6 that went out on the stretcher that I saw. I'm sure it was probably more.
4 people were killed, 17 others were injured.
I had to get out of there, so I was hopping on one leg.
Less than 24 hours later, dozens of rounds went off in Eastlake, killing a man and injuring 2 others. McDaniel has already had his first court appearance for that. 4 others were also charged in connection to that incident. As for the motive behind all these deadly shootings McDaniel is accused of, police aren't laying that out on the table yet.
We most certainly are investigating some of these homicides as actual pay-for-hire murders.
Court records show McDaniel pleaded guilty to 2 cases of attempted murder in 2023, receiving a sentence of 15 years split, 2 years to serve, with 3 years on probation. We've reached out to the DA's office asking about McDaniel's release and what, if anything, will be done in the future to keep violent offenders behind bars.
As far as them walking the streets and all of the evidence appears that they did it, then no good.
McDaniel remains in the Jefferson County Jail with no bond.
I feel safer for the community and especially the youth.
Police have also pointed out that tips from people in the community have helped, As they continue to investigate, they ask anyone with any additional information about these cases to contact them. Live in Birmingham, Valerie Bell, ABC 3340 News.
Now, in this series of alleged shootings that took place in Birmingham, Alabama, 22-year-old Damian McDaniel participated in a series of 5 shootings that led to the alleged deaths of 11 people and the injury of 30 others, and 30% of the homicides that took place in Birmingham, Alabama from July to September. Now, according to reports, Damian McDaniel allegedly participated in this homicidal murder spree on July 13th when he and a partner, Hatarius Woods, allegedly opened fire on a birthday party on Trendsetters Avenue that led to the deaths of 4 people and led to 10 people being injured, and then a month later participated in the alleged murder with Hatarius Woods of an elderly man, 61-year-old Charlie Moore, inside of his apartment, and then 5 weeks later, Damian McDaniel allegedly shot DeAndreon Brown at the 604 Lounge on 9th Street North, and then 2 days later wound up firing hundreds of rounds outside of the 5 Points South Entertainment District, which led to the deaths of 4 more people and injured 17 others in what some wanted to speculate was a mass shooting. And then the next day, after participating in that shooting at the 5 Points Entertainment District, Damian McDaniel and 2 other individuals participated in shooting Jamarcus McIntyre to death during a robbery. Now, the Birmingham police say that all of these alleged incidents were isolated ones, but when I take a critical examination of Damian McDaniel's alleged behavior as related to this string of homicides that led to 30% of the homicides in Birmingham, Alabama, it definitely fits the pattern and profile for beta males that I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis. And it's clear to me that Damian McDaniel was one of these beta males who was basically raised by a dysfunctional mother who never heard the old African proverb which says a race can rise no higher than the moral position of its women, and as the woman goes, so goes the race. And sadly, since this woman never heard the old African proverb, her moral position was set to evil. And because this woman never really had a moral position at all, because she had no understanding of the standard of God, this woman, as the first teacher of Damian McDaniel, wound up teaching this boy nothing but dysfunction from the first day he came into this world. Now, a quote was quoted from Damian McDaniel, which shows how dysfunctional this boy was raised by his single mother, and the statement that he made, which is, an expletive will do the same thing to you, so why not do it to them? Why show them compassion when you ain't got to show your folks no compassion? This whole statement in and of itself basically shows me how Damian McDaniel was raised in a dysfunctional fashion by his parents, and basically shows me that this boy was raised by a single mother and never had any sort of interaction with his father or any sort of foundation as related to a spiritual education in the gospel. And since he had no spiritual education in the gospel, he basically didn't learn how to love others or show others respect, because he was never taught about the gospel of Jesus Christ, which basically teaches 2 things as related to God, which is do unto others as you would have them do unto you, which is taught in the New Testament, and Jesus' 2 commandments, which basically fulfill the law, which is to love the Lord with all your heart, soul, and strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. And sadly, what happened with Damian McDaniel is he was never taught to love his neighbor as himself, and because he had no love for his fellow neighbors in the black community, he had nothing but contempt for them, as he was raised in this dysfunctional fashion. And as he was raised in this dysfunctional fashion, he was basically raised not to be masculine, because masculine men basically have discipline, Masculine men know how to think critically. Masculine men know how to problem solve. No, this beta male was basically raised by a woman, and as he was raised by a woman, he was insecure in his masculinity. And as he was insecure in his masculinity, what he did was create a hyper-masculine facade to mask his insecurities, and as he masked his insecurities with hypermasculinity, he overcompensated for his feelings of inadequacy about not having that power as a man, because he never was taught about his role as a man in God's order. He was never taught about his duty as a man to go out here and protect his community and protect the people in his community, and he was never taught how to look out for his community and his role as a leader and a steward with a sense of responsibility. No, this hyper-masculine male basically was out here feeling insecure and inadequate about his manhood and feeling inadequate about his masculinity to the point where he overcompensated by looking to use a firearm like a security blanket. And as he looked to use a firearm like a security blanket, he used that firearm basically to deal with anything that made him feel uncomfortable, because when it comes to these beta males, whenever they feel insecure, whenever they feel inadequate, whenever they feel that they cannot be secure as related to themselves, what they do to overcompensate and get a sense of inadequacy is use a firearm like a security blanket. And that's what happened here as related to Damian McDaniel, who basically was like a possible demon out here doing the work of the devil, because he never had any foundation in Christ. And as he was out here doing the work of the devil, he was out here killing, stealing, and destroying the lives of all of the black people in Birmingham, and only the black people in Birmingham, because when it comes to these kind of guys, they are caught up in, again, being spellbound by the system of white supremacy, looking to fit themselves in the black box that's acceptable to white racists. And this guy basically fit himself into the box of a super brute. And this super brute basically went out here looking to go out here and try to prove his manhood with his gun. And as he looked to prove his manhood with his gun, this is where he wound up participating in this disturbing spree of shootings starting on July 13th, where he and Hytarius Woods went out here and opened fire on a birthday party and killed 4 people. I believe several of them were completely innocent, and injured 10 more. And then after participating in that murder, then series of murders, went down and murdered an elderly man inside of his apartment as related to a possible robbery. And then 5 weeks later, they went to a nightclub, and then as they went to that nightclub, basically what happened with Damian McDaniel is that this beta male with a gun possibly was drunk or high on some weed, possibly, and this is where he acted on his impulses and wound up shooting DeAndreon Brown. And after shooting DeAndreon Brown, then 2 days later, this is where Damian McDaniel then went on another shooting rampage, and wound up murdering 4 more people, and then wound up injuring 17 others. And then after participating in that spree of shooting where hundreds of rounds were fired, this is where Damian McDaniel and 2 other partners, DeMarco Beck, Naquan Loire, and Larry Rollins, participated in shooting Jamarcus McIntyre to death during a robbery. And this guy, some people want to speculate that he's a hired killer. No, I don't believe that Damian McDaniel was a hired killer. What I believe that this male was he was one of these beta males that I used to run into in junior high school and high school, who would put on a hyper-masculine facade, and whenever he saw something that made him feel insecure, whatever made him feel uncomfortable about his feelings of inadequacy about his manhood and masculinity, what he would look to do is destroy whatever was there as related to trying to feel secure about his masculinity, because his gun was how he felt secure about his masculinity. Moreover, when it came to Damian McDaniel, whenever somebody basically disagreed with him over the most trivial matter, this guy would go out here and take out his gun take out his gun to prove how much of a man he is. This is what these beta males do. They go out here and take out a weapon because whenever they're feeling inadequate about being in the presence of someone, or just feel inadequate at all around someone, they got to take out their gun to show everybody how big a man they are. And this is the kind of guy that used to talk about in the days of organized crime as being a liability, because he was what they called gun crazy, or he was trigger happy. And he was trigger happy because he was feeling the high of having the power of that gun, because he didn't have much power as a man. And the way he would show his power is by flexing with that weapon. And that's what made this guy a real danger to those in the days of organized crime, and also made this guy a danger on the streets as related to running the streets, because this guy basically, anything can trigger this dude. And this is the kind of guy that gets off on seeing people walk on eggshells, because he gets off on feeling a sense of power as a man from having his gun, and having people scared that they will never know that he is going to use that gun. That's the scary part about the guys like Damian McDaniel. Again, these demons get off on having power by, again, terrorizing communities. And this terrorist, as I see it, basically was looking to terrorize his community as related to these series of murders. And again, I don't think this is a hired killer, because a hired killer would be a lot cleaner, and they would basically wait for the right time to do a hit. No, this guy was basically an impulsive individual with really poor impulse control. Because due to the way he was raised with a lack of discipline, due to the way he was raised with a lack of self-control, due to the way he was raised without understanding how to participate in male life skills or male survival skills like critical thinking, like problem solving, like the ability to use logic and reason, like the ability to, again, know how to conflict resolve by just accepting an apology and moving on. Because this is the kind of guy that I used to run into in junior high school and high school, where if you just brush up against him, he's going off on a rampage and looking to want to fight. Or if he sees that, or you make a mistake of stepping on his sneakers, he will go out here and look to want to go out here and start swinging, not understand. And the only thing he's going to do that with is other black people. He's not going to do that with white people or non-black people, because he understands there's consequences when you do this with white and non-black people. That's the whole thing that runs around with these kind of guys. They'll go out here and participate in violence against other black people with no composure and no compunction. They won't care about the black people that they murder, as they take out their gun to feel a sense of security. And they'll do this with other black people, but they ain't gonna do it with a white man. They're not gonna do it with a non-black man, because again, in those communities, if you go out here and put hands on those people let you know there's gonna be consequences for their actions. And there's gonna be consequences for the actions of Damian McDaniel and his beta male associates, who were responsible for 30% of the homicides in Birmingham, because now that they are in custody, they are in the custody of the COs, and they don't have their guns. And as they are in the custody of the COs, and possibly will be convicted for multiple terms of life in prison once they are on trial and are convicted, they are going to be in that penitentiary. And this is where we will see Damian McDaniel go from being a demon into a bitch, as he runs into Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, Melvin, and Mr. Sprinkles, because the bad guy with the gun in the streets turns out to be a bitch in the penitentiary. And as he's basically in that penitentiary, he's going to wind up suffering for the rest of his life, because they're never going to let this dude out of jail after participating in all of these crimes. And as he's in there, he's going to basically wind up losing his dignity and his intangibles of manhood, as they trade his front side and backside for Little Debbie snack cakes, ramen noodles, packets of Crystal Light lemonade, packets of Crystal Light tea, Taster's Choice coffee, off-brand lemon lime drink, off-brand grape drink, off-brand apple juice, off-brand fruit punch, Hunt snack pack puddings, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle pies, Fritos chips, all of the items of the commissary, like beef summer sausages, off-brand lemon cookies, off-brand duplex cookies, off-brand vanilla wafers, off-brand ginger snaps, and other items in commissary. And as they're trading that front side and that back side for those items in the commissary, and basically spit roasting this dude and going out here and braiding his hair afterwards, Mr. Sprinkles will come in, spray the front side and the back side with special sauce, then call all the dudes from Cell Block D to go out here and check out this dude's backside and his associates' backsides as he splits them cheeks open and shows their backside looking like the inside of a Louisiana crunch cake. And sadly, as this guy winds up suffering this ignominious end as related to this murder spree that led to 30% of the homicides from July to September in 2024, you'll still have politicians out here looking to deny the man crisis, saying that it's a gun issue. No, this is not a gun issue. This is an issue of the family. This is an issue due to the implosion of the family, because corporate America and the government look to go out here and embrace feminism, and that feminism led to the raising of women who were indoctrinated to believe that they could raise their boys to become men. Men like Damian McDaniel, who grew up without a father and grew up without a family structure or a community to go out here and teach him how to be a man. And because he wasn't taught how to be a man, he created chaos in his community as one of these children of the corn, who basically grew up like a stalk over the course of his 22 years. And as he grew up like a stalk over the course of his 22 years, he had no foundation in love, had no foundation in humanity. And this was shown by the statement he made: an expletive will do the same thing to you, so why not do it to them? Why show them compassion when you ain't got your folks to show your folks no compassion? This statement in and of itself shows me that this boy grew up to become one of these children of the corn, who grew up to become from a child of the corn to a man in crisis. And this man in crisis basically created chaos in the community. And this boy is again a direct result of a woman who never learned the old African proverb, because her moral position basically took this boy in a downward direction ever since this boy was born. And sadly, here in this country, we don't want to acknowledge the man crisis in this country that was done by corporate America and the government embracing feminism and looking to break up the American family, and how breaking up the American family has created a crime crisis in this country. I go in depth on this in my book, The Man Crisis, in the chapter Crime in the Man Crisis, because this is what happens when you don't have a family with a moral position. This is what happens when you don't have fathers in the home. This is what happens when you don't have structure in the home. You don't wind up raising a healthy boy who goes out here and builds his community. No, what you do is you wind up raising a guy like Damian McDaniel, who basically is a Pookie who wound up going out here and participating in a series of heinous crimes, that some were wanting to say was a mass shooting. But this guy basically, I would say, again, was not participating in a mass shooting. He was participating in a series of shootings because he was having beefs with people and issues with people, because he was not raised to understand how to navigate life in this world. And because he wasn't raised to learn how to navigate life in this world, and like a man, he wound up creating chaos on the streets of Birmingham. And that's really sad, because this is the same city that Dr. King went out here and marched and protested to end segregation. And sadly, instead of going out here to honor the legacy of Dr. King, what this guy does is breathe brand new life in all of the racist ideas that many racists had about black people. This guy, Damian McDaniel, basically goes out here and presents all of the racist ideas that they have about black people, going out here and breathing life into the whole narrative of the super brute and hyper-masculine idea that white supremacists have about black men being violent and out of control. That's what this Damian McDaniel did. He's a super brute as related to these alleged crimes, a super brute along with other brutes who go out here and participate in the same type of behavior that racists say that black people participate in, as related to his, again, barbaric behavior. And this barbarian, again, basically, again, was out here wreaking havoc in these streets. And the reason why he wreaked havoc in these streets is because of his lack of a family and a lack of a family unit to teach him values, because this boy had no values whatsoever based on that statement he made. He had no values at all, and this is where he was on the road to becoming a man in crisis. A man in crisis because he had lacked one thing in life, and that was a moral position taught to him by his first teacher, who was that black single mother. Now, if you want to learn how to identify the behavior of beta males in order to help someone in your life, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to learn how women go out here and raise boys to become children of the corn, like Damian McDaniel is alleged to have become, you can pick up my book, The Woman Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Woman Crisis at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to see me make more videos about the Man Crisis, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, The Temptation of John Haynes. Give in to temptation and pick up this action-packed African-American paranormal romance. Get The Temptation of John Haynes in paperback and e-readers today. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited. John Haynes, the man with nothing to lose. The man who rules the world runs into the irresistible force of a man with nothing to lose in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get the regular and variant editions of John Haynes, the man with nothing to lose on Amazon.com today. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited. The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.